And now on for the top story, two other points of view. Joining me now are Mark Thiessen, a former speechwriter for President George W. Bush, and Margie Omero, a Democratic pollster. Okay, Margie, you're sitting here in the hot seat. Tell me, from your point of view, how Mitt Romney did, just with connecting with those swing voters, those independent voters last night. Not as a partisan, but just looking at how a swing voter might see him after that speech.
I think he did a good job. I think he did his speech. He got through it. He didn't make a mistake. He had some touching moments in it. I think people will have a positive reaction. It's important to remember he has been net unfavorable since January. I mean, that's months and months of being more unfavorable than favorable views toward him. And I think that's going to take more than a speech to turn around. I mean, a lot of those voters are going to be deciding late, and they're going to want to hear more policy, as you noted, which they didn't really get that much last night.
Yeah, and Mark, as far as convention speeches go, it really falls in line with most of the ones that we remember previously, right? Reagan in '84 and '80, I don't believe he got into a lot of policy prescriptives. It really was actually much more ideological than Mitt Romney's speech, which was really targeted, I think, right down the middle and to women voters and others who might have a kind of a negative view of him.
No, you're absolutely right. A State of the Union, it's not a convention speech. It's not supposed to be a State of the Union address, a litany of policy proposals. It's supposed to introduce a human being to the American people who wants their vote for president. And I think Romney did a very effective job of introducing himself. He had two things that he needed to accomplish last night. The first one, he needed to connect with Americans in a way that he hadn't been able to before. He went into that convention, according to Gallup, with a likability gap with Obama of 61 to 27%. And I think after last night, that gap is going to close significantly. I mean, the stories he told about how he learned unconditional love from his father, that story about how his father used to leave a rose on his mother's bedside every morning, and that was how they learned he died, because the rose wasn't there. The story we heard earlier in the evening about the 14-year-old boy who was dying of leukemia, who he helped write his last will and testament so that he could give his skateboard to his best friends. I mean, no one's going to say that Mitt Romney is aloof or uncaring anymore after this. But the second point he had...
Yeah, go ahead.
No. Well, the second objective was to convince those independents who voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and are disappointed with him to vote against him, and who are struggling with that choice. And the quote you played at the beginning, I think, is exactly the most important one, where he said, "I wish Barack Obama had succeeded because I want America to succeed." I think that's exactly how most Americans feel. But his challenge going forward is that Americans still want Barack Obama to succeed. They're proud of having elected the first African-American president, and they don't want him to fail. And so he has to make the case that Obama has failed, that his administration is beyond repair, and if he gets 4 more years, the country will be beyond repair.
Well, we heard a lot of those metrics from the other speakers, right? From Marco Rubio and others. And Margie, you can speak to this. Look, I think Mitt Romney has this bridge with single female voters, women without children. Although women, just all women, it's not that far apart. I think Obama has maybe a 6-point advantage. But nevertheless, last night, after that story Mark alluded to of the couple who lost their son to cancer, when they said he did the right thing when there were no cameras around, he went above and beyond. That, I think, dulls the possibility of the leftists excoriating him and stereotyping him as the monopoly guy with the top hat.
Well, I think there are a couple issues, right? There's this personal sense that he can't personally connect with a lot of voters, which is something we're talking about. And I think he did a good job last night. That doesn't mean that he doesn't
connect. Success connect?
It doesn't mean he doesn't need to ever do it again. He has to keep that up till November, which he hasn't been able to do it up until now. So this is just one speech. Is it an aberration? We'll see. The other piece is it's not just about his ability to personally connect. It's about his policies. And these stories, while good stories, they don't mean that his policies and the policies of Paul Ryan are really going to help a lot of these struggling families, struggling women, struggling middle-class voters who right now, when asked which candidate you think helps the middle class, Obama has a double-digit lead.
Do you think so? You think that we will see Barack Obama talking a lot of about his record, the metrics that he set for himself? You think Obama's really going to marinate himself? And what the New York Times says today are 58% of jobs created are of low-paying variety, even though I think it was only 25% of low-paying jobs were the ones that were lost.
I think he's going to talk about 4.5 million private sector jobs created. I think
low-paying variety.
I think he's going to talk about how the Paul Ryan plan, 2/3 of the Paul Ryan savings would come from middle-class and poor families.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. Margie and Mark, thanks so much. And up next on the rundown, it's the speech everybody is talking